we need to have very rigorous programs for our parents. Let me just start with that, okay? So that parents, when they come to church, they are, or places of faith, they come and they are trained on how to bring up the child. Allow me to quote the Bible, as the guy with the long hair was called who? Samson's dad. When he was told that he was going to get a baby, what did he say? Please teach me how I should bring up this child. And as a church, we should be the ones who are, when they teach me, please teach me how to bring up these children. Because most of us as parents, that's where we don't know. We don't know how we are doing it. That's number one. But we also create what my daughter calls a dad space. My daughter is a teenager, and she tells me, we do not have a place where we can go and get help that is not school. Have we created a place where I can just come and be a teenager, and I'm not expected to be an intercessor, praise worship leader? I'm just here to hang, at what you're saying, just to remove steam and to be able to get that support, like that mental health support, socialization. So as a church, I think we need to be that place where I can go to ACK, I can go to that place, All Saints, and I will get a place where I can just have someone to speak to, okay? Or are we limiting ourselves? If you come here, you have to come pray, you have to be worshiping, you have to be doing. So for me, as a church, I think we need to take up that position and be that place where a lot of our young people are yearning for. And unfortunately, that place is being offered in the social media space. And we all can agree, even for me, as much as I do a lot of social media work, it doesn't have a lot of positive influence to our children, okay? So are we that place as a church, okay? And we can be able to create that conducive environment where children can come and be listened to. I agree. So I tell you, my 8 to 5 is listening to children, and those are some of the things. They say, they're not hearing us. Nobody has sat to us, spoken to us just to listen. There's too much pressure, there's too much things. And just give me 2 minutes, I do this. Because I went to boarding school, and the only time I saw my parents was the 2-3 weeks that I was at home. And those 2 weeks, my parents were stressed because they are looking for school fees for the next term, okay? So in my whole teenagehood, you're trying to remember when you saw your parents happy, you can't remember, okay? And then and between the ages of 13 to 17 is it's accelerated development. Your brain development, personal development, social development, emotional development is taking place very, very, very fast. And that theme she's talking about, it is when you are driving very fast, when you're driving, there's the things that happen to your car heats up very fast. That's the same thing that is happening, and it's happening in different aspects of a child's body. So if we are not able to support these places, we are not listening to them, because the listening is, I just want to offload whatever is in my brain. I just want to hear someone understand that what I am doing. I need someone to nourish my growth development. I need a social space where I can be able to interact with other people and learn, okay? So if you're not able to support all that, school is not doing that, home parents are busy. Church, this is where you need to come in and be able to support that. Yeah. Thank you very much.
So just to link that to the discussion of the budget, I think what we're learning is there's an opportunity. There's a task force now which has been formed by the Ministry of Education to look at what has been happening. But if you look at the Basic Education Act, I think, there is no funding that goes directly to chaplaincy. So as the civil society, again, I think that's an advocacy issue. God calms things. Amen?
Amen.
A godly child is a calm child. God has a space everywhere, including in our schools. So maybe we need to go back there, and I think whoever will be part of the task force, but we can also consolidate our voices that the role of chaplaincy in schools needs to be budgeted. Right now, it's just an add-on responsibility to a teacher, or the churches, as they are funding the chaplains and attaching them to the schools they are sponsoring. So there could be a resource issue. And if you read all these things that come out to explain the happenings, you will trace the fires and the indiscipline in schools to some things which are better handled through faith and spirituality. The fear of God is. Thank you. Do you have the last word for us? Yeah. Use the mic.
Go to the social, religious point. But on that, actually, just that reminded me, what we've just closed with, reminded me of, I had an opportunity to go to Japan, and actually in Japan, you'll not believe it, bullying is a big problem, even in primary schools. And so there they've invested in officers in every region. I don't know how they've split the regions. Officers who speak to kids who are the victims and those who are bullied. And that's a very big investment. Not only it's a very big investment. So you find that an officer serves maybe a number of schools. But anyway, on a budget note, just to mention, it is important, obviously, to engage and participate in influencing the formulation of the budget, just to ensure that the priorities of citizens are actually find their way into the budget. And of course, once the budget has been tabled, there is need to check whether indeed those priorities are captured. And then whatever is approved, participation should not end there. So there is need to close that accountability loop and ensure that you engaged even during the implementation of the budget. Because remember, that's where the rubber meets the road. Yeah. So between July 1st and the end of June next year, it is important for us to engage. And there are certain documents that are generated every quarter, every 3 months, whether at the national level or the county level, both by the governments as well as at the national level, the Ministry of, the National Treasury. And you can go through those documents to see what is happening, so that you ask yourself, in the first quarter, are we on track? In the second quarter, is the government on track in terms of implementing the things that have been approved in the budget? And of course, you can raise questions with the respective policymakers, whether it's the county government officials, national government officials, as well as the legislatures. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Let's give a hand to our panelists. We're going to plenary, and I'll ask my brother John to come and lead us through that. This is our chance to just speak out to the issues that we think should be talked about. And I thank you all for being very calm. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give him a hand clap. I think we've been listening since we came in. Good morning, all. Yes, my name is Johnston Shisanya from the East African Center for Human Rights. So this particular session is just to give us some space also to hear from you, to have some of the reflections from the engagements we've had since morning. And before we do that, I want to pose some few questions to us. You've heard from our panelists, you've heard from Neema when she presented the first session, and all through, the panelists have been sharing quite a number of insights that speaks to us. And the first question that I would want to pose as I give you the opportunity is, why are you here? Or why are we here? Then number two, why is this conversation that we are having at this moment in time so important to me and you? Why is this conversation so important to us? Whether you are a parent, you are a teacher, you are a Gen Z, is this conversation important to you? Why? That's something that I would want us to reflect on as we share and give our feedback or our concerns. I have captured just a few issues that I would want just to highlight, and then I open the plenary for us to share. One of the most thing that has stood out is the issue of public participation, and you've heard it from speaker to speaker. There is the issue of choosing the leaders. We are coming into an election next year, and these leaders have a role to play in what we are saying here, in terms of policies that we are discussing that guide the budget process, in terms of implementation, and other ways. They have a lot of influence even in what is happening around us. There is the issue of oversight, social accountability. How do we hold those leaders and the duty bearers accountable to even what we have been presented here? We are told this is what we have been allocated for. And there are certain individuals who have been charged with mandate and responsibility of ensuring that that money that has been allocated serves the purpose. So how do you hold them accountable? Because you are the ones who elected them. Remember, next year we are going to elect them from the grassroots level all the way. After elections, do we have a responsibility towards them? Then the other aspect is the advocacy we've mentioned. We are here because we want to have our voices heard. And advocacy has different components. Talking on behalf of those who are vulnerable, like the children we have been discussing here, because there are issues that affect them and sometimes they do not have a voice. So we need to talk on behalf of them. We need to talk with them. We need to talk with our friends, our colleagues, with people with special needs. So advocacy has different paradigms, but we are saying there are pertinent issues we need to raise as advocacy concern. And advocacy means we take different approaches. Media is here, we can speak about them in media, we can have boardroom engagement, different approaches, so that these issues can be heard by our leaders. And this advocacy is focusing on prudent use of our resources. It's my tax, it's your tax. So how are these leaders, how is the government using that resources in a prudent way that gives us the services we are asking? Public services is a mandatory service that is supposed to be provided to every citizen. And the government has made that commitment in various treaties and legal options that we must benefit from what we are paying for. So I want to give opportunity to us to ask questions. Our panelists are still here. We have a number of experts in the room. We can be able to respond to those questions, clarify some of the concerns. But it's now an open session. I will ask a few volunteers to come so we can have roaming mics. I'll take first 5, then we'll have response on them before we proceed. So we want to open this, and please, as you ask the question, be as brief as possible. Don't go into stories. Just ask your question very direct. If you can be able to remember also our panelists, maybe you have a direct question to Neema or to whoever, ask. If not, we shall be able to ask them to respond. Is that clear? Yes, so I will take the first, and I will start with our young daughter here.
Hi everyone. My name is Tamara Neil Rama. I'm from Toto News International, and I also advocate for child rights, and I'm also part of my own organization that I'm starting where I interview kids. So my question is, why do you say that education is free and it's not actually free?
Thank you. Very straightforward question on education. Let's move at the middle here. We'll take 5 this side and then we move that side.
Hi everyone. I'm Robert Mandela. I just have a concern on what she mentioned. I learned about something appropriation in aid. Does this also apply in other sectors other than education? Thank you.
Thank you. Next at the back.
Habari zenu. Allow me to use our national language because we are talking about issues tuna face kama wa Kenya. So, ningependa kuuliza, niko na maswali mawili. We are paying for SHA. Mimi kama mwananchi mwenye natoka huko slums, ninalipa sukari 170 kwa supermarket, the same amount tajiri atalipa kwa supermarket, the same amount. So my question is, tunakuja tunaweka shule za gava zenye ziko kwa ma estates Kilimani, Lavi, vitu kama hizo. Hizo shule ziko na ma swimming pool, ziko well equipped. Unaona? Tunafuatilia mpaka mafunzo subjects, tunafuatilia kila kitu. But mbona shule kama hata tuseme kama Kawangware, Muslim, unaelewa? Hizo mashule za ghetto, mbona haziwezi patiwa the same services? Kama ni kuangalia compound zikuwe safi, health wise, at least uangalie mpaka hizo machoo venye watoto wanaenda. Jaribu siku moja kama mzazi, tembea kwa hizo mashule, kwa places kama hizo. Utafeel vibaya sana. Kwani ule mtoto ana right, na tunalipa uchumi, tunalipa tax, sisi wote. Huyo mwenye ako huko juu na mimi mwananchi wa kawaida. Swali langu la pili, tunalipa SHA. SHA, hivi majuzi nimekuwa na shida na issue. Nimeenda kwa hospitali, nimepeleka mtoto, alikuwa amevunjika mkono. Believe you me, inaniuma kwa sababu gani? Nimekaa na mtoto mgonjwa for good 1 week kwa nyumba, simply because sikukuwa na pesa. Na huyo mtoto namuona every minute akilia kwa uchungu, sina venye naweza msaidia hiyo mkono itibiwe. Nikienda mpaka kwa shule za government, of which mimi kama Mkenya wa kawaida nalipa uchumi, nalipa tax, ninalipia SHA. Unaniambia x-ray ni lazima nilipe cash. Sasa hiyo ni emergency, sina chochote. Mimi nafanya kibarua inaniingishia shilingi 400 kwa siku. Hiyo 400 piga hesabu, nikinunua unga mfuko moja na sukari quarter. Saladi ya 50 bob inapimwa, ndapikia leo, kesho have kubai ingine. Meaning have kununua meal moja kwa siku ndio watoto wangu at least wakuwe na kitu. Of which tuna targetingi mostly supper. So, wakati unaniambia ni lazima kitu kama x-ray nilipie 1500, hii ni emergency, sina. Kuna wale watu wengine kama si wenye haunanga mtu unaweza pigia, mimi ndio nakimbisha mtoto. Nauliza hii swali kwa sababu kitu kama mtoto hata kuwekewa plaster. Nilipoenda hivi juu natumwa kwa daktari, wakati wa kuwekewa plaster, nimeng'ang'ana, nimekopa hii 1500. Imefika x-ray inaonyesha mtoto amevunjika mkono. Wakati nilitumwa sasa tunataka kuweka plaster, I have to pay cash ya hii plaster. Hii SHA ilipia ya kazi gani? I really need to know.
Thank you. Ani watatu, so kimaliza mpatie yule and then we respond and then I move to this section.
Okay,
Yes.
Thank you so much. Jackson Lee Mutere Kimani from Kamkunji Sub-County. Constituency, sorry. On mental health, why can't we advocate on building on capacity instead of the institution? What do I mean? Why can't we have these experts inside the institutions where they're needed, be it the public schools, be it the public hospitals, be it any public space? Because if we are focusing on the institutions, they are intensive, heavy intensive on capital. And then number two, on consumer protection, where does it begin and where does it end? When it comes to this budget, we are the consumers. We have these professional bodies. Why can't the professional bodies go beyond advocacy and focus on consumer protection? In the sense that we have this, we have raised our concerns. They have the capacity of approaching the responsible persons or the responsible people through whichever means. Is it class action suit? Is it via petition? Whichever means. They can be heard more than us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Last one, and then we respond, we give response on those 5, then we move on this side.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Angela, and I'm happy to be here. I'll start by asking a question. I would want to see by show of hand, how many of us do not know anyone, a friend, a relative, anyone close to you who has an NCD, non-communicable disease, diabetes, hypertension, cancer? You've never met anyone, you do not know anyone. By show of hands. Anyone? Okay, it means this is a problem we have around us. We have seen it, we live with it. Cancers, hypertensions, diabetes, and everything that is non-communicable, diseases that are not passed through, cannot be passed to another person. So I saw the government or Waziri mentioning that NCDs have been allocated 18 billion to the Global Fund, and I saw that was kind of something that we need to look at. So looking at that, I think it is very little money that needs also some advocacy and looking into it. But to just go further and ask the panelists that we had, to what extent did the Budget and the Appropriation Committee actually integrate public feedback into the final report, and what are the most critical flaws or missed opportunities in the budget? Because Waziri mentioned that they listened to Mwananchi and they put what they had in the public participation for us into consideration. So I'm just looking at the missed opportunities, and if at all, public participation was really considered. Thank you.
Thank you. So I want to invite our panelists and also the team here. I know we have a number of them who can be able to respond to those questions. Just very briefly give some response on those questions as you've had. We'll begin with the first question, and Neema, it still goes back to you as an educationist. The first question on why are we talking about free primary education and it's not yet free. So if you can be able, she's here. So we can respond just from where we are so that we can be able to swiftly. And if there is anybody else who can be able to add in, please do.
Thanks. I'll also give my colleague to just add on to what I'll speak on. That's amazing. What's your name again? That's amazing, Tamara. Mtoto News is doing a great job in empowering the children on budget issues. That's a valid question, and one that we're also asking ourselves in the education advocacy space. Is free education really free? Is it time we call it affordable education or unaffordable education? So the reality is, if we look back at when education was actually free, it's probably in the early 2000s, 2003. And what is happening now in free education program is the allocations are reducing. Sorry, I was speaking to Tamara. Sorry. The allocations are actually significantly reducing, and even in the current 2026-2027 budget, the allocations to free primary education have actually been cut by over 1 billion shillings. So it is true that free primary education is being neglected, is being underfunded, and yet the number of children that are getting into primary school are increasing. Enrollment is going up, but the allocation per capita actually is also not being adjusted for inflation, so it is cross-cutting. So not only are we cutting the funding, but we're also not adjusting per capita according to inflation. So what we can get a child with 1,400 shillings per capita is less than what we could get that same child in, say, 2010. John can also add on that.
Thanks, good morning. So my name is John, I work with Neema. I think to add to the question that Tamara asked, which I think is really important, I think the first bit really starts with where Neema stopped, which is that the allocation we have per child, the Simba account and the GPA account, you've heard of those accounts, wale wako kwa board of management ya shule, that amount has not really kept up with the fact that the cost of living has been increasing. So as the cost of education, of course, has grown with the way life is, we have not really increased the allocation to keep in tabs with where we started in 2003. So I think that's one place to reflect on. The second one, which is also critical, is that the 780-something billion shillings that the cabinet secretary spoke to yesterday, so yesterday I think he stopped at 784, is not all the money we have for education. Actually, there's a lot of money for education, but in different places. One of the challenges that has come in terms of how then do you see the 360 of education funding is, for example, how many bursaries do we have? CDF, governor, presidential, MCA, women rep, and ANGAF. Which other one? Governor has a big one, right? The presidential award one. We did a small study on the size of those bursaries, and it came to just over 60 billion shillings. So on that 784, add 60. But how is the distribution of that 60 done, right? Does it get to those who need it the most, right? So if you took just the 60 billion, free primary education this year is 15 billion shillings. That 60 billion can fund free education for 4 years, right? So if we try and reduce the fragmentation that we have in the funding for education, probably we'll get a bit closer to making sure that free education actually the costs covered. So that part of the fragmentation also has its challenges that are affecting kind of having a very aggregated funding environment for education. So for now, what we have is really a subsidized form of education. It's not really free because parents then have to chip in, right? So parents have to chip in at different points. Whether it's you don't have enough teachers, you need a board of management teacher. I think almost every rural, for those of us who grew up in rural areas, BOM teachers were everywhere, right? And parents had to pay 100 shillings or 200 shillings for that. So we are still not really at the point when we can say the education is completely free, but there are opportunities for government, first of all, to aggregate the funding that is related to education and try and make sure that there are resources being targeted, especially, and I like the question you asked, especially in areas where that is needed the most. Somebody once asked me, so how many public primary schools are in Mathare? How many are there? Watu wa Mathare. How many public schools are in Mathare? How many? About 6, right? How many schools are in Nairobi that are public? 200 and something, right? How many, if you look at the chunk of people that live in Mathare versus the number of accessible primary schools in Mathare, then you start seeing why even that aggregated arrangement of funding has to be directed, first of all, in areas that need them the most.
Thank you. We'll just give her to add something and then...
I'll be brief. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nelly from WICARE. I know we are talking of the money part, but I also want to bring the issue of targeting. If you look at the economic survey that was released from Treasury, they were saying that the number of enrollment for learners to schools is close to 8 million. But when you look in the budget, whatever they are targeting is 6.5. So in real sense, we are speaking that by design, we are already leaving out, as much as we are saying there's less funding, we are already also by design leaving out some 1.9 million learners who we cannot account for how government is going to budget for them. And I know we've done this analysis to be able to come up with that figure, because it is still the same team that does the economic survey that is then still planning. So the question then would be, why would they not carry along what they have in the economic survey to bring back to the budgeting and planning? Thank you.
Thank you. I can give him a mic. And as we respond, we can also still highlight on issues of appropriation in aid. We just continue with the questions very briefly to respond on those questions. Proceed.
Thank you. My name is Wahisi. I work with ISPAC. And there was one question on the role of professional bodies in terms of consumer protection. And the reason we are here, and thank you all, Sense, for this platform, is to just share what we do. And for professional bodies, which is ISPAC, we have LSK, we have engineers, there are so many. So they are here to protect the consumers and to protect the citizens in a number of ways. One of them, like ISPAC, is what we call public interest. So whatever we do our members who are accountants all over the country have to perform in an ethical manner. So wakati wafanye in any ethical manner, we have a disciplinary mechanism ya kuhakikisha kwamba huyo member ameweza ku appear before that. But mostly ni kuhamasisha. I'm just trying to come to your question to ensure that the resources that are being discussed and the budget of this 4.8 trillion is being utilized in an efficient manner. And then secondly, in terms of consumer protection, we also do licensing. We ensure we license people who are qualified. And I'll give you an example. Ukienda kutafuta, si kuna watu wanaenda kutafuta pin ya KRA. So you go to a cyber, you get somebody who is not qualified, anakuwekea obligations za VAT. So you end up having so many problems na KRA because obligations alikuwekea, wewe ulitaka tu pin. So the guy, what he did was to get your pin. So that's why we license to get the qualified people so that you are able to support the citizens. So there are so many other things. And then lastly is advocacy. We do a lot of advocacy. We are here because of picking some of these issues and engaging Parliament, engaging other stakeholders to ensure that they support our issues. Then on appropriation in aid is not only in education. There are so many other sectors. So appropriation in aid ni kama ile inaitwa non-tax revenue. So you go to NEMA, you pay NEMA fees, that's appropriation in aid. Hii mambo ya license or driving, immigration, that's appropriation in aid. And now appropriation in aid has become a very critical element in terms of funding our budget. And that's why you've seen over the years, there's an increase in appropriation in aid. So iko education peke yake, iko other sectors, all sectors, even agriculture has appropriation in aid. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other response? Yes, sir.
Just going to talk about the mental health. You said we capacitate the institution. The Basic Education Act has a requirement that every school should have a mental health professional, not a teacher who has gone for 2 weeks counseling class. A professional one, a psychologist who has gone for 4 years of counseling, of therapy, of training. That's what it requires. That's a law required by law. Okay. The law also, Children's Act, requires that every sub-county should have a trained, certified, licensed children officer, okay, with a minimum of a social worker's degree. Currently, we don't have that. That's low. And this is because it's research that was done and it's shown these are the best practices that can be able to ensure that our children are safe. So for me, it's a matter of, as my friends from Budget Hub are saying, the 60 billion that goes into, thank you for bringing that, something that bothers me every day. The 60 billion that goes to all these bursaries, can we just allocate, we say, out of the 60 billion, let's do 10 billion of it, and say this 10 billion is going to fund mental health. Just 10 billion. And ensure that every school has a mental health professional. We have a lot of them. Oh, there's so many young people out here who are psychologists, counselors, psychiatrists. You know, many of them are looking for jobs. Some of them are doing odd jobs because they don't have, we have many trained of them. Social workers, there's so many of them out here. So for me, I think if probably someone is gonna be watching this, if you're one of those funds with a bursary fund that is private, so do fund government to have a therapist in school, okay? So because if we do have a teacher, can you imagine you go speak to your biology teacher about something very close, and then that teacher comes to class and start giving examples with you, okay? It does not work. That's why children are not going to the therapist in school, because they are teachers, and you don't want to tell your teacher something that is bothering you, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So we'll move to this side. Who was helping us to run the mics, please? So as we can be able to hear, these are the inequalities we are talking about. So there's a lot of inequalities all the way from schools to all the, especially the social sector issues. So I want to very quickly from this side.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Mark Ambitho. I'm in the education domain, but I'm also in the research domain. My question will go specifically to the Institute of Economic Affairs. And my questions are these. As an economist, we know the foundation that make a country become developed. Education is an important sector. Agriculture is an important sector. Health is an important sector. But then Kenya is a developing country. We are just moving from developing to a developed country. We have a quagmire. What is a quagmire? We have our funders who support us, who actually blackmail us. How do they blackmail us? The country wants to invest to subsidize education, okay? But the World Bank says, and the other donor countries say that, we don't want you to subsidize education. If you do that, we'll cut our funding. Same happens to agriculture. Same happens to health. So I would like him to explain to us, okay, on how he wants this government or any other governments in Africa to take off when they know their priorities of jumping from this state to another level, but they find that our well-wishers who are supposed to support us to do what we want to do, at the same time, they say that we are not going to support you if you do this. And so it happens that what the lady was talking about, schools in the slums, schools in, these teachers that he was talking about on mental health, they cannot even employ the main teachers of things like STEM. How are they going to bring those chaplains?
Thank you. We've gotten your question. So let's proceed at the back and we go straight to the other end. I want to pick all the questions on this end and any other question. Because of time, we want to make sure we are within time. So please be very brief.
My name is Mark Echesa, and I'm a member of Bunge la Mwananchi. And the reason I am saying so is because I hold a position of the speaker where we do moderation on civic education there. Now I'll give an overview of what I've observed here. And I've visited actually the sessions that you have done numerously. And I've always said one statement. There's a gap on how you communicate from Mwananchi and what you do on the town hall. And the reason why I'm saying so, there was a statistic that was shared there that 4 out of 10 Kenyans, they are in hardcore poverty. So precisely 4 million Kenyans. But I'll also be bold enough to say 6 out of 10 Kenyans are surviving. So which means 60% of Kenyans wanatafuta njia ya kusurvive. And when you do this civic education, I'd request that actually the finance bill or the finance process, the budget process, is more so a political process. So also address the political side of this process of the finance bill. Because the perception outside there and the perception that I've seen in this discussion is quite different. Why am I saying so? It's because the data you're giving is very actually right. But now that data, to some extent, is not that convincing. I'll give this example. You have said, kwamba, the government, you know, the budget, 4.8 trillion shillings. 50% of it into servicing debt, 2.3 billion shillings, 2.3 trillion shillings inaenda kwa servicing debt. Na ikienda into servicing debt, that is 50% of the budget. Now the surprising thing is this, kwamba ile kitu inanishangaza ni kwamba yenye inaenda kwa service delivery kwa wananchi. Yenye inaenda kwa service delivery kwa wananchi. Hiyo ndo pale penye hatuoni. She was asking about the allocation ya pesa yenye inaenda kwa SHA, education and everything else. Wana allocate a lot kwa these ministries, but the replication of that money kwa mwananchi haionekani. I congratulate education, 700 and something, but the reflection on it ni problem. So to me, problem yangu ni kwamba a lot of issue yenye inaenda kwa hii pesa haionekani ni sababu two things. Number one, the kind of taxation and wastage. Kwa bunge tunasemanga hivi kwamba poverty in Kenya is very artificial. That is our language. It is being man-made by the leaders here. And the 60% wenye wanakuanga huko nje kwa bunge la mwananchi are the ones next year who are going to vote for the same leaders wenye wata approve the budget.
Thank
So
you.
sisi,
Summarize,
let me
please.
just say here
Yes.
mwisho tu.
Yes.
Hii part ya accountability inafanyika pale kwa bunge. Now, I think this can be put into food of thought. Do you know wale wananchi wanasema aje? When you're talking about e-citizen and e-procurement. Pale wananchi wanasema next year, mimi nikiwa included because I interact with them, wanasema hivi, that they are going to look for a thief. But that thief should be a thief who will eat with them. Sasa, the problem, that's what I'm saying, as long as you're not addressing the political aspect of them, and those are the people who will make 90% of the decision from MCA to the presidency. Sisi tukikaa town hall, tunaongeanga tu, na wale ndo wana make decision huko. And the same people wanapatiwa handout kutuletea guns. So please address that side. The political side of the finance bill.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you. Very quickly.
Hi everyone, my name is Caroline and I'm a budget champion under AMREF. So I'm really privileged to hear help. We have been doing well, but it has been hard work because of the advocacy and also going to these offices, e.g. the Department of Financing, like here in Nairobi County, which is held by Mr. Mike. So we have been pushing. And currently we are doing a very bold advocacy on matters mental health. Thanks, Neema. I've seen you are a champion. You need to join us, put the synergies together, because the government listens to numbers and strategies, because they'll tend to beat around, but when you are so strategic, they bend to it. So we did a submission on mental health that was high-marked financing and budgetary rationalization for mental health, healing services in this financial year 2026-2027 budget. So we are hoping something will be done. We had a meeting with Mike, probably it was last week but one, and he promised to do something in Nairobi County. Hope the rest of the counties will do something. I know nationally is it's a bit hard and is a task that need a lot of effort to push, but I know things will be working. I know changes doesn't come overnight. Things will change with the resilience that we have. We have been shaken, but we are back here because we need a change in this country. We have been taken for a ride for long.
Proceed to the question, yes.
Mine is about the oversight desks and offices we have and bodies in Kenya. I think they are sleeping. We also need to awaken them because we have bodies that are not working and they're being paid and they're using our revenues and sleeping. So these are desks and bodies that we need to push them and awaken them. And also I think the control of budget need our attention and needs our support. She has been doing a good job, but I think we have been just listening and wrapping around, but sai tumpe support because amekuwa kitupea hizi gaps na hizi ins.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, good morning. My name is Noah. Yeah, I'm actually trying to respond to the question that was asked about how do we put pressure to the MPs so that they represent us well. One of the challenges we've been seeing is, and it was mentioned, is that MPs want to put up structures that can be seen. But we have a problem whereby they put up a dispensary, a fiscal building, and yet we don't have drugs. So my suggestion is we need to put more pressure to ensure that CDF, as it was advocated by TISA, is scrapped off. They're trying to introduce it back, as well as the World Development Fund, so that MPs focus more on advocacy to ensure that the budget is implemented well, other than focusing on CDF and World Development Fund.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Charles, and I've sampled some few questions about accountability and public finance, also in jobs and economic growth. And straight to my question, what is the government strategy for supporting small, medium enterprises and startups to generate opportunities for employment. 2, I move to accountability and public finance management. How can citizens, track the implementation of the budget and hold ministries accountable for results other than depending on our members of parliament, because most of times they are the people whom we elect into the parliament to speak on our behalf, and in most cases we find that we are being shortchanged when they move into the national houses and all that. So how can citizens track the implementation of the budget? Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, my name is Francis. Let me just speak in Swahili haraka haraka. Kuna kitu moja ambaye inatuumiza hii Kenya, is about civil society. Civil society is dead in Kenya. So first of all, we need to wake up. Whatever is happening in the country is because of our problems. Second, in this country, we have around 125 people who are controlling this economy. So others, we are just others. We need to stand up and we make sure that we are in that mix. Because they are the one who controlling us, they are telling us where to go. One day I asked a governor of the central bank, I told him, the country of Kenya, they are the most country overtaxed, east and central. I asked him why, and he ignored to answer me that question. That means that we have left here, Kenyans, we are just following the people who are just, the one we are calling them leaders. Lastly, Kenyans mkitaka wake up, we need to scrap the word honorable. We don't call these monkeys honorable, we just call them servants. It's enough, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Zipporah Katunga. I'm glad to be here. I have 2 issues to raise. One is about parenting. Somebody has just said that there's training for parents on positive parenting. I really do not understand how that happens, because we don't have a manual for parenting unless they have created one, and there is a budget for that. It is never, I don't know how it happens. If it is there in the first place and it is happening in this country, you can see the direction our young people are taking. We need to have a conversation around there. And the other thing was about, I want to understand the relationship between aligning yourselves with the present government and development. When we are doing a budget like this one, then you hear somebody in the road shows saying we'll do a road of billion of shillings. I don't know where that comes in the budget of today when such promises are made by the government. That means if account is not aligned to the government of the day, will likely not get development. So my question is, what is the relationship between development and aligning with the government of the day?
One simple question. I'm Jacob Ngumi. I'm a consultant and a civil society person. About the memos written to Parliament, to National Assembly, I mean, they are so good with facts and figures by different stakeholders. But Parliament will ignore all that and vote the way they want, despite the facts and figures and stakeholders who are submitting memorandums. So us here as stakeholders, what's our role? Should we go to court? They publish all those memos, we see the content, analyze, and also give feedback to them. If they ignore the issues raised in those memos, can we go to court and stop the process of the budgeting process?
Good morning. My name is Tobias Juma. I'm a member of Bunge la Mwananchi. Kindly allow me to speak in Kiswahili. Duniende haraka.
Yes, proceed.
Yeah. So, hii allocation ya budget nimeona imeallocatiwa hadi kwa county. Lakini like civil society tunahitaji muwe mstari wa mbele kutusaidia kwa hizi swala, kwa accountability. Like for example right now, MP anaenda kupewa road funds, ile ya maintenance, lakini ukienda kwa mashinani hakuna kitu imefanyika. Why can't they just take this money, even bursaries, waiweke kwa Ministry ya Education, shule ziwe na free education kutoka juu mpaka chini. Thank you.
Asante. We are taking 5 more. Then we shall be able to respond. Some of all those responses are going to come into the next panel. So please, let's be quick. We want to make sure we save time.
My question is, yesterday we had somewhere, our treasurer was saying that they are reducing taxes so that the government can have some amount of money, but they are not really telling us where the amount of money they are going to get it from. So who are the specific duty bearers and the people we should look up to and be like, we need you guys to give us a framework of, you've said you're reducing taxes, right? But how are you going to get this money back into the system? Because we know generally the government does not have money. Who is the specific person who's supposed to give us this framework? Because they will tell us about all of these things, but a framework is not provided for the specific things on how they'll get this money back into the government. Thank you.
Thank you. I want you to move the front. Yeah.
As far as this budget is concerned, first and foremost, I critique it from the word go. The budget which was read by the CS of Treasury was more of political than practical. For example, what I would like to ask my colleague, I come from the civil society sector, what I would request my colleague members of the civil society is to make a very keen follow-up to the implementation of this budget, because the CS was just a flower girl for the Kenya Kwanza administration with a view to pleasing the masses of the Republic of Kenya. When I look around here, the majority here are the Gen Zs, that is generation zooming. We've lived well, but this younger generation have to go very far. First of all, this budget, it is going to affect the younger generation very drastically. So what I think we should do, this Kenya does not belong to one individual. And let me thank the provost and the civil society for organizing a forum with the civil society and the church. And I thank you, the church, because formerly you did not used to take part in budget matters, but you have to take part because you belong to Kenyans. So I'm requesting everybody here to follow the implementation of this budget to the latter. I heard somebody asking whether we can go to the court. Court in going what? We are going to use what we call the Njango law, because we are not going to allow any person to mess with our country.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Davis. I have some issues to raise, and it affects across all these organizations that have converged, made us to converge here. One is use of public participation. What measures are we supposed to put in place in order to get constructive public participation that can bring out some good fruits? Question number 2 is about the quality of politicians in National Assembly and county assemblies, and even in the senators. Which measures are we supposed to put in place so that we get qualitative members of the political class, so that they can give us credible budgets and maybe credible debates. The other question is, how do we empower the control of budget to have universal, judicial, prosecutorial powers to deal with accounting challenges once and for all? The last one goes to the youths. I wanted to ask whether or how do you advise this government to adopt a rotational type of employment in order to absorb the youths in government opportunities? Thank you.
Thank you. I want to stop there. Be the last, please.
Yes, it will be.
The rest we are going to have at the next panel. So as we address those questions, if your question is not going to be addressed, we shall be able to have some few minutes again at the end. So please be the last.
Okay, mine will be quite brief. Amidst a lot of the conversations that have been had, my only question has been what mechanisms were used to ensure children's participation in the budget process and how their views were incorporated in the final budget decisions. Yes.
Thank you for being brief.
Good morning. Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Patrick Kibe. I work for Anglican Development Services, Kenya. Anglican Development Services, the development arm of the Anglican Church. And I'm also a trainer in trauma, healing, and management. So first, before I go to the question, is to say it's okay to respond the way you've responded. There are those who are running, there are those who have fallen, there are those who wanted to fight, so it's okay. And my question, or just something that I want us to discuss, is about the elephant in the room, and it's corruption. I think we need to be angry in terms of corruption, because all these resources we are saying should be allocated elsewhere or should be done this way. And corruption is still the elephant in the room. We are still not somewhere where we should be. We should be angry for corruption, and I think I agree with my friend there who has talked about the people we put in office. If we are putting a corrupt person, we are also corrupt. So let us get angry of this corruption. Let it be a point for us here as an advocacy. Thank you.
Thank you. I want us to stop there. I want to invite Bonyo to bring on board the next team. We shall be able to respond to those questions, especially as the next team comes in. That will be part of the assignment.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Johnston. We want to negotiate first on time. My name is Bonye Elijah Don, and a number of us here belong to this church. So this is our church. So you know, sometimes you know us in the civil society. So I want to appreciate the guy who's encouraging the church to do this kind of conversation. I lead the advocacy subcommittee in our church. We work with Davis and other colleagues. Now, we are likely to have a media briefing in a few minutes from now. But we want to encourage you, if you're not going to be part of the media briefing, let's stay here and continue the program. So if you're interested in speaking to the media, you'll be free to leave and speak to them and open your heart. We are not going to guide you on what to say. Are we together? However, there's a standard communication that will be given. So the standard communication will be given by the church leadership, and we are happy our provost has just come. As we welcome the provost, Karibu. I'll have to repeat this because he has just walked in so that we are well guided. Thank you, Karibu. I was just communicating that we have to negotiate on our time and the program.
We are going to have a media briefing in a few minutes from now. That will be led by the provost. And there's a standard communication that is going to be issued about this event and related matters. However, if there are those who are interested in also communicating messages to the media, you'll be free to do that, but that is after the official media briefing has been done. In your absence, Provost, I think this is the third session we are about to start. We expected to conclude by 12, and we may not be able to achieve that, so I was negotiating with the participants. Let's stretch a little bit up to quarter past 12 if possible. So let me allow the Provost, through Reverend Josephine, to give us some greetings, then we'll allow him to go and engage the media.
Thank you, Don. Good morning, everyone. Great delight to have you all here in this budget conversation as we prepare ourselves to engage a lot more and a lot better. I'm Ivan Zomolo. I serve here as the Provost of All Saints Cathedral. We are hosting this conversation in partnership with various civil society groups, and truly delighted that we are able to build this movement. One of the things you note is that when we come together, then we provoke the demons. For us, from our spiritual language, is that the demons are always provoked. And we are delighted. By the way, I'm very happy that that has happened. Whatever has happened, I'm very happy that it has happened because somebody has got attention. We've attracted the attention of somebody, and they know that the church is not sleeping. And so what has been happening, I'm just walking out in a minute. What has been happening is that we've been working with all these groups that you're seeing, and I'm glad that ISPAC, Amnesty, TI, Bajeti Hub, TISA, several other organizations, including the Office of the Auditor General, have been part of us in consolidating our views on how to influence the budget processes, but also the budget outcome in its budget itself. But also, and I'm very delighted that Dawn, leading this team together with Davis and Reverend Josephine, have brought us together to ask how do we then engage beyond just sending memoranda and all this, and how do we hold the government accountable. What we are going to say down there is that we must be given space as fellow Kenyans who are taxpayers to contribute our views without intimidation and without a pushback, because this country does not belong to one person. It does not belong to a few special people, but the country called Kenya belongs to all of us. And therefore, we've got a right as taxpayers and as players in the governance processes of this country to contribute to shaping how the country is governed, but also how our resources both are collected and are utilized. And that's why we are all here, isn't it? And therefore, may the conversation go on well. Dawn and the team, well done. Please keep on. We'll engage a little bit, but this build-up, we must keep this momentum and suppress the forces of oppression that are only delighted to put us at their feet so that we are not able to speak, we are not able to act or express ourselves. We came from there a long time ago, and I can assure you, as a church, as All Saints Cathedral, alongside our partners, we will not accept to be intimidated, to be muzzled, or mtu kuweka mguu yake kwenye shingo yetu ili tukose kupumua. Amen.
Thank you very much. So those who are going to join the provost, you are free to walk downstairs and engage in that media briefing. Now, let's allow them to walk, and then we continue. I think that's a good number. So the rest, let's proceed the program. Sasa, okay. We are going to proceed with those who are remaining. We will not. So In the next session, we will be trying to respond to the questions that were asked. Unfortunately, so that's where my notes were. Anyway, so we want to assure you, the guys who asked some questions, those questions will be responded to in the next panel. So we had a representative from ISPAC kindly come to the stage. Then we had IEA. IEA colleague, has he walked outside? Okay. We had TISA. Yeah, it's okay. I think we still manage because you see, the same people who wanted to speak here but I can see Tom. Tom, kindly step in for Alex, and when he comes back, we'll be able to adjust. IEA. Who is joining us from IEA, kindly? Welcome to the stage, sir. Tom, kindly come in on behalf of Alex as we wait for him to come back. And then, where is Kinyua and Annette? Okay, when they come back, we'll be able to, this is going to be all men, unfortunately. So, and you had a child. Where's the child representative? Where they've also gone outside? Okay, we have a child that is going to join this panel when they come back. Nevertheless, we'll proceed. So the questions, before we go to substantive revenue raising measures, the questions that came here that I wanted us to speak to, how is a budget implemented? And colleagues in the room, usually when the budget is approved and appropriations bill has been passed into law, what happens? Every ministry or department of government must have three things: the annual work plan that is aligned to the approved budget. They should also have an annual procurement plan. Then they should also have the cash flow projections, or sometimes we want to call them cash flow plan. Now, without the public accessing these three things, it's very difficult to join the budget implementation process. Budget preparation process sometimes is very easy because you go there and raise your concerns on what needs to be done. But implementation, and unlike the Bunge Mwananchi colleague, you really must have the facts. To get the money, revenue has to be raised. So this panel is going to help us connect two things. When the budget is approved, the implementation frameworks are in place. Where do you get the money to implement programs? How is that money raised? The various revenue raising measures. Yesterday you heard the statement in Parliament, so what are the projections? How do these projections look like? How will those revenue raising measures affect the people? And once the revenues are raised, how is that revenue used to finance the budget? And then, how is a budget implementation monitored? Sometimes we monitor revenue raising, but we fail to connect how the revenue raised is being used to implement the budget. So we want to hear a bit of that. We want to touch a bit of the role of control of budget in all this. How does the control of budget determine approvals for withdrawals? What are considered? We also want you to look at a little bit of this quarterly budget implementation schedules and reports. And as you speak to us moving forward into FY 26-27, also remind us where we are coming from. We had a budget for 2025-2026 that is coming to an end. How has it been financed? What are the challenges of revenue raising currently? Do you foresee those challenges moving forward? What are the implementation challenges? So that's where we begin. And I saw Nelly here. Please, you need to join that last chair. We need a lady so that, sorry, but we have to quickly get a gender balance. So join the last chair. So we'll start with ISPAC. Briefly, where are we coming from in terms of revenue raising and where are we going?
All right. Good morning still. Good morning. How are you? So my name is CPA Brian Onyango. I am a member of ISPAC. In ISPAC, I serve in a committee called Public Finance and Taxation. And for the last few weeks, we have engaged members of the public in forums like this. And I think as we come to the end of this discussion and the beginning of the scrutiny that we need, I'm glad that we are going to have this discussion again today. Now, to respond to his question, where are we coming from as a country and where are we right now as a country, even as we get into this new financial year? I summarize where we have come from as a country in 3 key challenges. Number one, we are coming at a point where the finance bill for 2023 was rejected through the Gen Z protests in what they dubbed as Occupy Parliament protests in the year 2024. And so that had a very significant impact on how the country was run in the year 2024, 2025, up to this time. We are also coming from a point where the statistics from relevant government departments are indicating that the pending bills from the county governments are to the excess of over 500 billion Kenya shillings as we speak right now. We are coming from a point where the public debt in the country right now currently stands at excess of 12.8 trillion Kenya shillings. We are coming from a point where for the last 13 years, the Kenya Revenue Authority has never met or has never hit their revenue collection target. Apart from the year 2020-2021, where they revised the target downwards as a result of the COVID effects and therefore achieved it, in the year 2024-2025, where they also revised the target downwards as a result of the suspended finance bill, and therefore they were able to achieve it. But the original target set by KRA for the last 13 years, revenue target set by KRA for the last 13 years, has never been achieved. Now, these challenges combined together, and by the way, talking about the public debt, the 12.8 trillion I mentioned is exclusive of the pending bills, which now IMF and World Bank is now encouraging Kenya to bring into its balance sheet. So when that is brought into the balance sheet of the country, then the public debt now stands at over 13 trillion Kenya shillings. So that is where we are coming from as a country. You can see the fiscal pressure and the pressure, the economic pressure that the country is feeling even as they get into this new financial year. But now to address these challenges, as we are all aware and as it has been mentioned here, the government, through the budget highlights yesterday, has proposed that in the next financial year, they are going to spend 4.82 trillion Kenya shillings. And to finance that budget, the government has projected that they are going to raise 3.63 trillion Kenya shillings to finance that budget. Now, the composition of that 3.63 trillion is that 2.89 trillion is going to be raised from ordinary revenue. That is the taxes we pay as a people and as Kenyans. And then the gap between 2.89 and 3.63 trillion is going to be generated from what we call ministerial appropriation in aids and grants. So I think I have given a background on where we have come from, what the government wants to spend in the next financial year, and the kind of money the government is anticipating to get to finance that particular budget. But the point here is this, as I wind up. I want us to remember that for the last 13 years, Kenya Revenue Authority has never hit its revenue target. The 2.9 trillion that they anticipate to get as revenue to finance this budget, from where I sit, I think we are not going to get there, because by end of March of this year, we are already at a deficit of about 120 billion for this current year's revenue target by KRA. And I'm sure by now it has gone up. So we are at a very tight position, and you can see the government was very, based on that budget highlight for yesterday, the government was very careful not to increase taxes, but to try to widen the tax base so that they can be able to bring as many Kenyans as possible into the tax bracket so that they can be able to contribute to the national basket towards raising revenue.
Thank you. Thank you very much. You hear ISPAC reminding us that for 13 years, we have never received a report that the targets for revenue raising are being met. So there's an implication here. When you don't achieve your revenue raising targets, what is the implication of that in terms of financing budget implementation?
Thank you. My name is Noah. I work for Institute of Economic Affairs. Yeah, thanks for the question. Yeah, it's right to say that our total budget is 4.8. Our revenue target is 3.6, which leaves a budget deficit of about 1.2 trillion. 1.2 trillion is the amount of money that will be raised both from domestic market as well as from external market. So domestic market is borrowing through treasury bills, treasury bonds from the banks, to fill that gap. But now when you look at this total borrowing, 1.2, 90% of this amount is from the domestic market, 90%. To be specific, it's about 996. So I listened to CS give a press briefing regarding this amount. The reason why we are not getting, according to the medium-term debt management strategy, should be about 60-40. 60% should be financed from domestic, 40% should be financed from external to balance the risks. So domestic market has a huge risk in terms of crowding out the private sector. So let me explain. So the banks have two options: to lend to the businesses or to lend to government. Yeah. So if, as a business, you want to expand, you want to employ more people, and you approach a bank, so the bank will see the government as more profitable, so they will lend to government and will reduce the amount of credit that you'll have otherwise obtained. Yes. So that is the effect of heavy domestic borrowing. And also in terms of the interest rate, so the interest rate is very expensive for domestic market, for domestic borrowing. It's about 12%. Compared to external is a bit low. So the reason given by the CS why the external market has shrinked is because of the geopolitics. So remember, we are in a situation whereby we have some key donors like USAID have pulled back. We have the Middle East, as it was mentioned. we have the Middle East conflict, we have the Ukraine-Russia war. So all this has meant that the donors, the countries that were traditionally lending to Kenya have pulled back. And so only not more than 200 is being sourced from external, yes. So that has led to that effect, yeah. So that is the risk. And so as it was mentioned by ISPAC, so the target is 3.6 revenue. But remember, as he has said, we are not likely to hit that target. According to our own projections, what the government is likely to raise is not more than 3.3. Yes, so we have close to 300 billion gap in years. So that, as it was also shown, that at the planning stage, we have a deficit of about 1.2. But then during implementation, you find that this deficit increases because of the shortfalls in revenue.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Nelly. Listening to what Brian of ISPAC and now of IEA is telling us, what is the effect of this situation on the citizens? The pressure points. Thank you.
Thank you, Bonyo. If I may stand, you can read whatever is in my t-shirt, right? It reads public debt. So who is feeling that private pain? It is us, right? So I'll start from there. Individually, when you are in business, for example, as Noah has put it, you're now in a competition with the government in accessing credit, for example, because government in this sense is security, but you as a business person, and if you're a young person trying to come up with a startup, where hauna any other security that you can offer, yours is a startup, will the banks be able to give it to you? No. So the first pressure point for me would be for young people and even any other person who is not young and is trying to establish a business. You won't have that capital. Like I'm saying, if you are a startup and trying to seek for funding in terms of credit, for example, you won't be able to establish your business, for example. So that is the first pressure point. The second pressure point is, I have an interest in education, so I will talk a bit of it. Now to the budgeting. And for me, I know we are talking of the 4.8 trillion, but allow me to bring a controversial statement and possibly say that maybe our budget is 2 point something, because if we are saying that half of the 4.8 is untouched, and even if you go to the budget books, it is untouched. So therefore, that money is meant for debt only, and you cannot touch it. So we are remaining with 2 point something. And now then that comes with the allocations. Like Enema gave us in the morning, when you look at the budget that goes to the education, or even what we are supposed now to be paying as debt servicing, if you calculate it, it could be twice or 3 times what we are allocating to the education. And like I mentioned in the plenary, we have identified that is already a data gap in terms of how we are targeting. So perhaps maybe if we were targeting right, that money that has gone a bit to debt servicing would have come there. So what I'm saying is that, in short, our priority as a country in the budget is debt. I know we have highlighted the top priority sectors, but in terms of that impact of debt, it is coming down to that. The government is interested in prioritizing debt first. Then comes the allocations. And then that is how the inequality is coming in. Because when you look at the education sector, the funding is going down. When you look at other sectors as well, the funding is going down. So the issue of unemployment, again, if you're a person who wants to start business, like I've said, you now as a citizen in competition with accessing credit to government. I also I don't know if you all understand the ecosystem of acquiring the domestic debt. Noah has mentioned a bit of it, and you could hear who are the people involved. Suspect number one is government. Suspect number 2 is the insurance companies. Suspect number 3 is the wealthy, because I don't think Nelly, as an individual, I can rent or rather lend government money in billions. Unless we have among us here, there are 125 wealthy individuals in Kenya that can then lend government. So the risk then in domestic borrowing is restricted to like 4 entities, and there's nowhere where the citizen is engaged there. So by design, you're already left out in that ecosystem, and that is the risk because this is public resources. One time the CS a few weeks ago was mentioning that debt is supposed to be taken for them. According to them, it's supposed to pay the recurrent expenditures. But when you go to the law, it says that debt should be taken for development. So the risk then, or another pressure point here is that we won't be having development in the country if you, like Noah has put it right, money that is being taken right now for debt is going to pay salaries, is going to the procurement, but whatever is left for development, then is very less. If you are expecting to get roads, you won't be seeing them. If you are expecting to get hospitals, you won't be seeing them. Money that would have perhaps, we are mentioning here the aspect of mental health, perhaps the money that would have been used to maybe acquire and get some of these professionals that we are trying to advocate to be included in the school systems, there won't be money because, and again, because now the government is in the priority of paying debt. So that is how that is trickling down. And lastly, now the legal aspect of it. I don't know if we are able to tell how much, because I want to think as an individual, if I am taking debt, you can trace, tunafuliza hapa, sindio, mimi Gen Z, so lazima tu, if I take a loan, for example, I know it is tied to something, right? If I'm taking loan for food, I can be able to tell that this loan, enye nimechukua, ni ya chakula ama ya business, therefore I would be able to pay back and trace that this loan taken went to my business services or went for my food expenses. But in government, we are in a situation where we have had from the Auditor General's report, some debt has been taken without parliamentary approval. Is that money being able, or are you able as a citizen to trace that money to you or even a particular project? So we have a gap of accountability as well that I may want to bring in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So before I go to plenary, let's go to Tom of the Institute of Social Accountability. Some questions were raised here. Oversight. Of course, we have the oversight institutions, but speak to us on citizens-led oversight. How do the citizens lead in monitoring budget implementation? How do citizens monitor government expenditure? How do citizens monitor revenue collection? Sometimes we spend more time in monitoring development projects and how money is being used, but how do you interest us to also monitor revenue collection? Remember, when the finance law is put in place, we are taxed, right? And there are several revenue-raising measures. Now, how do we track as citizens that it is true revenue is actually being collected as per what was provided in law? That's number one. Number two, how do we track that development is actually being done based on budgets as approved? So we have the institutions that do that, but we really want you to help us from your experience in TISA. How can citizens do this? Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, mimi ndio sijavaa koti hapa, sio? So I'll try to speak the citizen language. I'll want to tone it down kidogo. Isikue technical. They are very technical. I don't understand what they've said. However, allow me to say something that on the context that CPA Brian was saying. One of the things that we've seen in the context is in the last financial year, we were being told that our inflation, actually up to somewhere around December, our inflation was around 4%. But when we look at March last year, it was at 3.6%. Today, inflation has increased. I think according to the statement that was read yesterday, it has gone up. What does that mean for us? Wenye wamevaa kama mimi. For us, the cost of living is high. That is the other reality in our context today. By the way, in the morning when I was going to work, I saw it was drizzling, but I saw most people trekking to work to their places of work. That means they cannot afford the transport, the bus fare, to board a bus like they used to. The other context where that brings is on the issues of fuel that we are seeing today. It has affected the food that we put on the table. It has affected how we go to work. It has affected the savings that we are supposed to have. So if we go back to, that is on back to the component of revenue collection. And why should we concern? How should we track this? By the way, when we are being told that we are going to collect revenue of 3.6 trillion, we think that is possible. It is not going to be possible. Because one, the numbers that the government have used to project that revenue that we are supposed to collect is wrong. They've used a GDP, a nominal GDP of 20 trillion, but in the economic survey, that is not our actual GDP. Our GDP is supposed to be 17 trillion, 17 point something. If it grows by 5%, which is not going to be the case, it is supposed to be 18 trillion. If you use that to do revenue projections, I agree with Noah, what we are supposed to see is 3.35 trillion. So what that means when we already have the wrong figures being used, that means that extra gap that we are going to create again, we are going to borrow. By the way, Brian, right now, what we are going to borrow in the domestic market is not 995. In the statement, it is now 1 trillion. Yes, and that is tied to the employment opportunities. Okay? That is tied to employment opportunities because the small, micro and small businesses or enterprises are supposed to create the jobs that government cannot create. Government cannot employ all of us. If they cannot access credit, they cannot start their businesses. They cannot expand their businesses, and hence they cannot create jobs. The youths who are graduating in different levels of education will not be employed. Now that is the risk that this is going to take us into. What is our role? Or what do we want as an institution, as TISA, or as Okoa Uchumi, as partners here? What is it that we are supposed to be looking at? You need to track that revenue. One thing that you need to know, every moment we are being told that we've missed our revenue target by 120 billion or by 150 billion, you have to know, you have to ask yourself, where is government going to get that money from? By the way, Bonyo, let me just mention this. In the deficit that the government is saying, we also have another deficit. The government has a deficit in the deficit that they're saying. There's a deficit that has not been declared. If you look at the analysis or the figures from the government, we did analysis, we compared the budget summary and the fiscal framework. Then we realized there's some 32 billion that has not been incorporated. We don't know where that figure is, 32 billion. So if it is accounted for in numbers and it is not matching, it means we might be seeing that deficit already going up with 32 billion, ata before tuanze ku miss revenue target.
Okay.
Yes.
So I would like to just hold on it. I want to come to our plenary. There are critical things I'm mentioning here. Citizens tracking. And let me remind us that sometimes we participate in budget preparation alone, and we hang on Article 201. If you have your constitution, I want us to read Article 201 together. Article 201 in the Constitution emphasizes public participation in financial matters. And there are several, let's in this meeting try to agree that financial matters are several. But sometimes we participate more in budget preparation. So what Tom and the colleagues are trying to tell us, how do you participate in tracking revenue being raised before we look at tracking that revenue being utilized to finance implementation? That's something we want to hear from you. Then again, remember these persons who are not in Nairobi. Remember the community in Lamu. Remember somewhere in Loyangalani, Marsabit. Remember somewhere in Narok. They are also citizens, they are not here. How do they participate? Because everyone has a right to participation. So how do they participate in all these conversations around revenue, around debt, around tracking? So can we get the mic to get about 4 people before we come back to our panel? There's one mic here, you can help me with it. So we have number 1, number 2, number 3. Okay. So number 1, number 2, number 3 at the front here, then we go to the back.
Okay, asante. Mimi naitwa Ezekiel Rema, natoka Kibera. Nikiwa hapa nawakilisha kikundi cha muungano wa vijiji. Nafikiri wengi wenu wanajua. Pia tuko na Nairobi Budget Champion. Shughuli zetu through Nairobi Budget Champion tumekuwa tukifuata budget za county na national government. Shida kubwa tuko nayo hapa ni kwamba sisi wote tumeelewa viongozi wetu wanafanya vile wanataka na pesa zetu. Hivyo tu. Hata tukijiuliza maswali 101 hatutapata. Tunajua wanafanya vile wanataka. Si ati hawajui hizi vizungu mnaongea hapa. Wanajua kila kitu. Lakini wako na ile bargaining power. One of the bargaining power wako nayo, wale tulikuwa hapa mbele mliona. Watu kama 10 hivi wametokea pale. Niliona watu wakitafuta mahali wanapitia. Badala kila mtu achukue kiti iwe kama ngao yake, tunatafuta mahali pa kutokea. Si ilikuwa hivyo? Hata kuna wengine wameenda kabisa, hata hawatakuwa kwa hii mkutano tena. So tayari tuko na ile problem ya hatuna solidarity na hatuna umoja. Tuko hapa lakini hatuna umoja. Because I was thinking kama tungechukua kila mtu kiti na waingie, wangetuweza. Lakini sisi tuliacha viti tukitafuta mahali tunatokea. So imagine hiyo ndio style. Hebu fikiria ni wabunge wangapi tuko nao, na senators ni wangapi, women rep ni wangapi, MCAs ni wangapi, na wanatuweza Kenya mzima. Tuko around 50 million. Lakini they are able to do what they want. Hiyo ndio system tunatumia. So kitu cha kwanza tunajua kabisa ukiwa na matatu imekuwa na problem. Umebadilisha driver na conductor. Amekuambia hii gari yako mimi ukinipatia, hii gari nitakuletea shilingi 10,000 kwa siku na gari yako itakuwa in good condition na utafurahia. Na mimi mwenyewe nitapata msara yangu na conductor. Tunasikizana? That was the situation of 2022. Tuliambiwa hivyo, tukasherekea, tukafurahi, tukapea driver na conductor gari. Hiyo gari inaleta pesa. Si imekuwa shida. Wanakusanya pesa, wanaendesha gari vile wanataka, alafu wanakuletea shilingi 1,000, na hiyo 1,000 ndio unanunua mafuta, kesho gari ianze safari. Sasa Kenya yetu inaenda hivyo. Kama gari ya matatu iko na mwenyewe lakini conductor na driver ndio wanasherekea. So kwa mfano sisi tukifanya social auditing sa project sa county tunakuanga na challenge kubwa sana. Because tumeparticipate kwa priorities, tumesema tunataka daraja, tunataka hii barabara, tunataka hii shule, tunataka hii. Lakini wakati project inaendelea, because tuko na hiyo provision ya ku audit, ndio tujue kama ilikuwa ya 20 million, hii daraja imejengwa na 20 million. Lakini do you have the information ya kukuwezesha uweze kujua hii barabara imejengwa na 20 million? Hatuna. Because lazima tuwe na knowledge ya engineer. Lazima tuwe na PQ ya kutuambia hii barabara ilikuwa imepangwa kujengwa hivi na hivi na hivi, ni inafaa kuchukua 6 months. Barabara inachukua 10 years. Kama sasa tuko na kiwanja pale Joseph Kang'ete. Tangu 2014 wakati wa Kidero imekuwa allocated several millions. Hajawahi isha. Imefenziwa. Ukitaka kwenda kufanya social auditing, kuna wale vijana wamewekwa hapo wanakuuliza wewe ni nani? Unakuja kufanya nini? So how can you succeed in oversight na ku make sure kwamba pesa zenu zimefanya kazi? Kitu ya mwisho, mnajua kwamba hizi shule zetu zote za public schools principals wana manage kama private property. Hata kutoka primary sa shule. Ukipeleka mtoto kama unapeleka mtoto class 1, ili upate nafasi unalipa 6,000, 5,000. Mnajua hivyo? Wale wako na watoto si mnajua hivyo? So kama headmaster wa primary anaitisha 6,000 for admission ya class 1, wako na ile pesa unalipa monthly tuition. Kuna pesa ya weekly ile tunaita ile okay. Medio. Na kuna pesa nyingine ya Saturday.
Asante.
Si mnajua hiyo? Sasa hiyo shule ni bure. Ukienda kwa secondary, hii ya grade 10 wameingia. Serikali imepeana shule nafasi ya watoto 400. Principal wameongeza zake 200. Watoto wamechomekea hapo. Wakiwa 600. Domu ni ndogo. Makosa iko wapi? Na principal akichukua hizo zake 200, anachukua za matajiri wale watoto walikuwa na marks kama tuseme 20. Alafu sasa huyu mtoto baba yake analipa 100,000.
Asante ndugu.
So tuko na problem ya corruption na ukabila. Hatuwezi chagua viongozi wazuri kama tumeweka ukabila na corruption.
Asante.
Kwa mfano, Badi alikuwa the best ya kupinga budget. Badi mwenyewe. Lakini sasa wakati yako minister, unaweza mpinga? Jana amesema karongorongo. Budget ya karongorongo, si ndio? Karongorongo si inazanga watoto pia. Watoto ya primary si wanazaa.
Asante, asante ndugu. Patiana pale alafu tukuja hapa mbele. Pale kidogo. Let's take at least 1 minute maximum.
Thank you so much. Asante kwa kunipatia another chance. You asked about public participation. Now at Bunge, I was lucky to host CS Mbadi. I was actually the speaker when he came. Now maybe an intel that you don't know. You see, when he came, he did not come to do public participation. He came to do a formality or whatever was going on. Unaona sasa? So he was coming to legitimize through Bunge la Mwananchi. And my problem is this. You see, civil society on the other side also, you need, and that's what I'm saying, you need to connect finance bill or the budget reading process with politics. So when he came there, the agenda was kwamba to protect serikali. Ilikuwa ni idea kwamba to protect serikali kwa ground. Lakini kwa picha, kwa video mnaona ako kwa Bunge la Mwananchi. So as long as you do not connect budget reading na politics, because why am I saying so? Is because the budget reading does not begin at wakati June ama July imefika. Budget reading inaanzianga when Kenyans go to vote at the ballot in the general election. The moment you choose an MP who's not concerned about our interests, then the approval of that bad finance bill itatupeleka where we were in 2024. That is where the connection comes in. So the decision making comes in when civic education is done kwa ule mwananchi pale chini make the right direction, the right decision pale kwa ballot next year kwa general election. And to me the greatest problem is this. You see, I've looked around when we are in the Bunge la Mwananchi, we ask, who's the right leader should we choose? Amesema kwamba when we choose a thief, then we are thieves. But to be sincere, who's more transparent in all of them? The church is here, and I'll say this confidently. Kwanza nyinyi wa kanisa ndo tuko na hasira na nyinyi. Because when you're campaigning for these leaders, we tell them you use spirituality. Bana my friend, mambo ya kura toeni mambo ya spirituality hapo. Ndio mmetumia mbaya zaidi. Because you put mnaenda mnaekewa maombi pale kwa kanisa Uhuru Park, oh, this is the one who God has chosen, then akishaanza kuimba, where is that God to tell us he's doing a wrong thing? You're the one. Me, I'm not accusing God, I'm accusing you. Atuoni Mungu, tunaona nyinyi. So stop misrepresenting us. Ekeni maombi lakini pia mkusema ukweli. Sababu ikifika accountability, hao ndio sahi wanaenda kwa State House kukula handout. Sasa sisi kama nyinyi mnakula handout, sisi tutafanya nini? You have seen, and by the way, let me surprise you. Your group, some of them are my members pale Bunge la Mwananchi, because I represent the national platform. And if you know how much Bunge la Mwananchi is that strong, we are in all the 36 counties out of the 47. So you need to understand, one communication why he was coming at that place is because the language ya Mwananchi was official. So nyinyi kama mtumie advantage ya kubake civic education on the people who make decision at the ballot, tutakuwa na town hall every year ya finance bill, then no solution.
Asante sana. Wacha tukuje hapa.
Bwana Yesu asifiwe. My name is David Otieno. I serve in this church as one of the clergy. I just have a comment, and particularly on the budget making. And this also, let me be very frank, it's not my own because I first came into it when Julius Kimngetich was talking to the former US Ambassador Meg Whitman at the Kenya School of Government. I think we are hitting the wrong target in trying to get this, a budget for this country. Because this country is blessed with so many things. And he gave an example of somewhere like Paris, for those who have gone to France in Paris. It hasn't got much. It's just got Eiffel Tower, which is something which was built many years ago, and the River Seine, which they could not even use in the last Olympics because it was very polluted. At that time, he was saying they get 75 million tourists every year going to Paris to do nothing else, see the Eiffel Tower, see the River Seine, and drink wine. And in Kenya, we're still talking about 2 million tourists per year. Earlier in the week, somebody in the television was saying that France gets 180 million tourists every year. So if Kenya was to just get 10% of that, 18 million tourists every year, all the youth in this country would be employed. In fact, we will be exporting labor. Why? Because we have everything. We have some of the best beaches in the world. We have the Mara. We have Lake Victoria. We have everything that you can see that a tourist would want to come and see in Kenya. We are not doing the right things to bring them. Because he gave the other example of Morocco. All of us know Morocco just because of football. Morocco didn't even bother to get into those 5-star hotels. They just did 3-star hotels by the river Mediterranean, and so they focus on tourism and of course football, which you hear. Here we are talking of Talanta. We are trying to get AFCON next year, and we meant to be having throughways where people can come from Kasarani to Talanta to Nyayo and everywhere else where the ball will be taking place. But we cannot see the infrastructure being put in place. And we are going to lose that kind of number, because if Kenya was to get even 1 million people coming over to watch football during that time next year, we'll do well. I get so pained because I'm also a farmer. If you go to the Murkiti now, you'll find 40% of the produce there going to waste, no value addition, no market. If there was a value addition, those things would be stocked in the supermarkets or elsewhere, would even be exported for value. So we are not going to get by Biden. What the Kenya government really does is just to tax the ordinary person more and more. And the MPs will never feel it because they have got a fuel allowance of 356,000 per month. So even if you raise petrol to 300 shillings per month, they'll not feel it. So it's time we started having that conversation. How do we make Kenya run properly with the resources that God has given us? A farming country, a country full of places where people can come as tourists. Going to the Mara here is more expensive than flying to Dubai. That's it. It costs you 50,000 shillings to go to the Mara. It will cost you about 40 or 34,000 shillings depending on the season to go to Dubai. So we are not even targeting that kind of thing. So let's look at it. And this country, I think, was just too young for 47 county governments with 47 governors, 47 deputy governors, 47 speakers, 47 deputy speakers, everything. And all they are doing is, that's why they'll never get the resources to run those governments. So that's just my comment. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Let's get the last one before I come back to my panel. Number 4, then I come back to my panel.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Alan. I'm a creative by profession, and I also do management consulting. So you've asked, there were two questions that were asked when I got in is why was I here and why is this important? And that the other question that you've asked is how do we encourage participation? So there's something that's going on amongst all of us, and all the other people who've spoken before me have highlighted it in different ways. So I think a better way to increase participation amongst the people in general is one, create ownership. Show people why they need to own this process, how it is important to them. So the relatability that Bunge la Wananchi was talking about, in the sense that hii shughuli kiongelewa kwa serikali, unga yako inapanda na shilingi 3. Sasa ujue, kama uko na hii shilingi 3, nyamaza. Then the second thing is we need to remove the culture of it's someone else's fault. It is all our fault. So once we start changing that narrative in the sense that hapana hizi vitu zinafanyikaga Nairobi, hizi vitu zinafanyikaga mahali fulani, that then we'll always end up being here. So the best thing is let's work amongst ourselves, because all of us are representatives in ourselves of different communities that we have. Kuna hizi nyumba 10. We can start with the same 10 houses that we're in, slowly by slowly. And you know, as I think it was Nelly who said it, government listens to movements, not people. So if we start creating movements, small movements, and synergize that, then we'll get the results we want.
Thank you very much. So we like to get back here, maybe less than 30 seconds kindly. We need to go towards closing now.
Yes, thank you very much for all the people, these leaders, to employ some of them in this treasury and other areas, because some of them are unemployed and they embrace corruption. And now you come here and you accuse the church. That is very wrong. Thank you.
Now, I want to, before I go to my panel, we had some 2 children here. Please come. We had some 2 children here who would like to hear. Please come here. We like to hear their voices. You will take about 1 minute. So listening to adults speaking here since morning. You've heard us speaking since morning. Just tell us your name, your school, and then what are you hearing adults saying, and do they make sense to you? And what do you want to be done? Then the same thing for you. Go ahead.
My name is Tamara Nilrama. I'm 13 years old. I'm currently homeschooling. For me, most of it makes sense. Probably the point that he said about children, that's really concerning, because I have several children that I've interviewed, and most of them give out the points that they don't go to school because if they want to get enrolled in a school, they have to pay this certain amount of money. And also me, I used to be in a public school, so I'm saying it from my own experience. For me to get into a public school, my mom had to pay 15,000 for me just to get into the school. And later on in class, she had to pay 3,000 shillings, which in total, I would say for a child to get into a school, they need like around 20,000 in order for a child to get into a public school. But the part where he said that these children need to pay money, it's really concerning for most of the children, because I have several children, first 3 of them, they haven't gone to school. I've talked to several organizations like Shofco, but most of them say that they have to take at least another year so these children can get into school, which is gonna be a long time for this child to get into school. They're gonna miss out on a lot. So according to me, if I had the opportunity to get these children into school without them paying this certain amount of money, that would actually be helpful for these children. And apart from that, these children don't actually have parents. They live with their grandparents, which is very concerning, because at the age difference, you see the parents and the grandparents. It's very hard for these parents to understand, the grandparents to understand what the child is going through. So my point is, most of them make sense, especially on educational purposes, because that's where my main target is. And if I had the opportunity for these children to be helped, that would actually be amazing.
Thank you.
To everybody, is it afternoon?
Yes.
Good afternoon. I'm Blessed Barak Juma, 15 years of age, and I'm a child advocate. I'm a champion for education as part of the SDGs. But what Tamara said here is so strong than what I had for education. And I planned for something else also, you know you have to have a plan B. So what I'm about to talk about is on healthcare. On my research and what I did on the budget that was presented, we realized that healthcare, there was an increment of money, an increasement of money to the healthcare sector, Sindio. And when you realize there's somebody, one of us here, who mentioned that when you go to these public hospitals, you don't find the medicines. So how do you expect us to go to a private hospital where we are supposed to pay a lot of money and there are drugs there, while a public hospital, for all of us as the citizens of Kenya, there are no drugs? I study in St. Mary's Ukwala Boys in Siaya. So when one is sick, you go to the Ukwala Sub-County Hospital. Whether you are sick with any type of disease, you'll always be given one thing, Panadol. The only thing. So when you're sick, you don't even have the energy to go to the hospital because Panadol is the only medicine you get. You don't get tested, you don't get anything else, only Panadol. So maybe it's something very strong and something that can grow into a bigger problem, and they're not taking action into it. Another thing, by the way, I would like to say, if they've increased the amount of money, let us just assume it was that in that case because the money was less. So let us assume that this time, this year, you know, the government year niliambiwa inaanza 1st July, and that's not according to my calendar, but I'll just adapt it. So this year, the government is going to, or we are going to get drugs in all the public hospitals, level 1, level 3, level 4, all the levels, even if you have level 11. So the last time I hosted Mr. Elijah Don in my show Mtoto na Sheria, we were talking about the financial budget, and I would like to ask if there's anybody who can summarize that budget. You know that budget is so long for a child like me, and I'm sure not everybody here has read the whole budget. Nani amaliza kusoma budget mzima? Nobody. So if you can create a child-friendly budget, tafadhali, because we also want to understand what is in that budget very well. It took me a lot of time to understand. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can have your seats. I have one more who is graduate, is in between a child and an adult. Please come. Just introduce yourself, your name and your age.
Hello guys, my name is Benson Victor Zachary, currently 17 years of age, an art design advocate from Tutunix International, and a Form 4 student who is home because we are hungry. So, okay, maybe if I had to add, we are not just hungry, we are also confused, just as Barak has stated. In addition, we don't understand the budget. Sindio, you know, just a few years ago, we have this capitation that is given to schools on matters that is best to allocate to food. Sindio, so it was 22,000, and now it is 17,000. Na tena haikuji. So, you know, it's a lot. We are just confused. We are hungry again. And you see, you also, let me speak also for something I have not yet stepped on, for the help people who also receive money. Sindio, these people are only given upkeep. Alafu ile fees yenye ulikuwa ulipiwe hailipwi. So unajua ukishapewa upkeep unasahau hujalipiwa fee. Unamaliza university and then your degree is there, you cannot take it and all those processes. Sindio? So this is something we have to check on matters education. Sindio? So maybe what I'll just like to say is that I got a privilege to attend the book judges, and we talked about the street children. Sindio? The street children. I thought we had Vision 2030. I don't know where it has gone, because every day children keep on increasing in the streets and nothing is being done. Sindio? Also about, we also have children with incarcerated senior parents. Let's say you are below 4 years and then you are there. What are they doing about that? Sindio, I have never understood about, we have around 200 judges in Kenya, Sindio, and 50 million cases maybe, and some of them concern children. Sindio, what do they have a sector for that, for only children? Because there is a meeting I attended and we had children from homes wenye wamefungwa na wanasema my case was very small. I was supposed to be in that home for like 1 year, but nimekaa 4 years sababu kesi yangu nikipeleka huko mbele inaenda tu kirushwa kwani hakuwezi kuwa na koti ya watoto and all that, ndio. So it's like there is a lot of things that we are confused about, and it's out of our help maybe.
Thank you very much.
Just 1 second. They say that we are vulnerable. I can say we are not vulnerable, we are just not enlightened. Yes.
Very well. So this panel here is going to help us with use your wisdom to respond to a lot of the questions that are coming, but also help us with how we move from here. Allow me to remind all of us, the financial year Blessed is talking about is starting on July 1. And he said that that confuses him, which we understand because in their school, it starts in January. So today we are at 12. July 1, a new financial year begins. Now, that financial year begins with what is known as budget implementation guidelines. So we need to, first of all, ask ourselves, if those budget implementation guidelines are not disseminated to us, we might not understand how the budget will be implemented. Now, budget preparation guidelines are the very specific provision on public participation in preparing the budget. Now, we are calling for the budget implementation guidelines also to provide clearly how we will participate in budget implementation. That's something I want you to help us understand. Number two, Blessed has told us the budget is big. By the way, the program-based budget is over 1,000 pages. And you saw the CS took how many hours yesterday to speak? And he spoke many things. So the question we're asking ourselves, Treasury has given us what we call Mwananchi budget. But according to me, it's still not a Mwananchi budget. We can't understand that. So what do we need to do around making people to understand the budget in details? That's something we need you to help us with, so that then we're able to participate from information perspective. And very lastly, civic education colleagues who are here, don't you think, and you can comment on this, colleagues, civic education on public finance, so that the same way you teach us the Constitution, you teach us the laws, can we now be taught about all these things we are saying here? So we'll give you your final 2 minutes each, listening to the conversations, just shape for us how do you move from here, and I'll start with CPA Brian.
All right, thank you so much. My 2 minutes begins now. Two things. Number one, we are not talking about the finance bill now. Few days ago, everybody was talking about the finance bill. I want us to understand that the budget highlights you were given yesterday just indicate, represent what I would call a shopping list. The priorities that the government, even though that has been challenged here today, that it's supposed to be citizen-driven and not government-driven. But that is just a shopping list of what the government wants to prioritize in the next financial year. Now, to ensure that that shopping list is fully implemented, or rather the items in that shopping list are acquired, then the government presents what we call a finance bill. So those two documents run together. So the finance bill, I would consider it as a credit card that is supposed to be used to finance the items in this shopping list. So as we get into the next financial year in about 18 days, I want you to remember two things. Number one, you have a role to play as a citizen in the implementation of that budget. And this is how I want you to participate, and this is how the Constitution under Article 201, as you mentioned, and the Public Finance Management Act of 2012 expects you as a citizen to participate in the implementation process. Number one, the government has involved you in the budget-making process. You have given your views, even though most of your views have not been considered. But from where we sit, and I think as an institute also, we have seen, at least this time around, the government has listened more to the memoranda from the various stakeholders from the public. We have seen very many controversial proposals that were in the initial draft that were dropped right now. So it means that in one way or another, public participation is now being taken seriously. Courts have tried to enforce public participation. If you look at, for example, 2023 finance bill, some clauses there which were very controversial went up to the Court of Appeal. If you remember the issues around SHA and housing levy, and the Court of Appeal in their judgment ordered that the government, the Kimani Kuria-led Committee of Parliament should ensure that every time there's a public participation, they need to give a written communication
on why they accepted some proposals from the public and why they did not accept some proposals from the public. And I think that was a way of tightening the memoranda that we give to Parliament every year. But now, as a watchdog, you as a citizen, one thing you need to do to ensure that this budget is implemented. Number one, access raw data on how implementation of this budget happens. How do you access this raw data? Every quarter and at the end of every year, the Office of the Control of Budget, by the way, which is an independent office created under Article 228 of the Constitution, publishes on a quarterly basis and on an annual basis what they call the Budget Implementation Review Reports. In that report, they indicate how much money was given to counties, to ministries, how much have they spent it, how much was the absorption rate, and then how much has not been spent. So look at that report and tie that report with another report called the Auditor General's report. So that report indicates whether that money was used in the right way and whether everything that was promised in the budget has been implemented in the right way. So
Thank
those
you.
two reports are key for you, and if you follow them, then you're going to track these promises that the government has given us through the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Noah.
Yeah, so Article 1 of our Constitution says that the sovereign power belongs to the people. And then this power is donated to our MPs to represent us. But we've seen failure in representing us. So one thing that I can say we can do is what Mzalendo is doing, for example, evaluating or assessing all the MPs and rating them in terms of performance. There is also something that Bajeti Hub also did in terms of, they have the county budget transparency survey. So they have a questionnaire, they ask governors, for example, particular documents, have they been disclosed, have they been uploaded on a website? So in one instance, for example, in Lamu, certain financial documents were not uploaded. And then when the report was released, this is an index, when it was released, the governor then uploaded the document. So there is an impact in rating or assessing and naming and shaming of these MPs. And I think this is something that we should consider pushing forward so that MPs or members of parliament are elected based on merit, and not just based on political party affiliation. Then another thing, so we need, access to information is power. We can participate meaningfully if we have information. But some of the information is not disclosed, for example, disclosure of particular contracts, yes. So we need to push so that these contracts are disclosed, yes. Then another issue is in terms of increase of access to some of this budget, increasingly what I've seen is use of AI, for example. So AI can help us to summarize. AI is good in terms of summarizing large text, yeah. So we're able to use AI to help us to summarize, but also to convert these numbers into, for example, audio, or even for people who have disabilities, so that, for example, Braille, so that those who blind, all this, can be able to access this information, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom, where do we go from here? We have religious organizations, civil society, private sector, academia, we have students here, we have children, collectively, in a minute. Where is this discussion taking us to? Where do we go?
Thank you, Don. The ultimate power rests with the people. It does not rest with the duty bearers. The speaker from Bunge keeps on referring to CSOs. It does not rest with the CSOs. It rests with the people. The question is, if a project was happening next to your homestead, it is not completed, do you want to wait for a CSO to come to monitor what is happening there and engage your duty bearer? While there's an office, there's the office of the ward admin. You can get all information that you need about that project, including the money that was allocated towards funding that project, and even the status. The question is, are we doing what we need? Going back to public participation, I like what some of our partners are doing. The people we engage in, we are not only engaging people in Nairobi. We are not only engaging people in town halls like this. Sometimes it is the people identifying the challenges that they have. Then they reach out. We have this information gap. Can you come and take us through this? And when that happens, that is the public participation that I want. Because it is citizen-led. We are not waiting for government to call for people to come for public participation. Sometimes we should be the ones initiating the process of public participation.
Okay. Very well. Your last 30 seconds, finalize.
All right, thank you. So when we initiate it from our point, it means if I had a project that I wanted to be prioritized, I will be the one telling government, this is the project that we want here because of the things we do. As we are doing poultry farming, as we are avocado farmers, as we are doing this kind of business. But this is the challenge we are facing. But if we wait for government, they will come and they want to do us a beautiful structure, maybe a market, but that was not our priority.
Thank you. Nelly, the children spoke here, and you heard them. What are they telling us, and how do you move forward with what they're telling us?
Thank you, Bonyo. The children are crying, they're hungry, and I want to agree with it because if you look at the recent times, government has been providing school meals, but then it has been anchored only to ASAL. By ASAL, I mean the arid and semi-arid locations. And I think it has reached a point, it still gets us back to the point of access to information. While we are planning, where we are providing all these guidelines, are we, because even in the budgeting, we are budgeting for the children, but are we really including them in this budgeting process? So for me, my first point will be how we look into including the children in this budgeting process. Secondly, I know Bunge Mwananchi said we try to make issues political, so this is my issue then. Because we've heard all year in the political declarations how we want to integrate the Muslim into the curriculum. And we are here speaking that the children are a bit confused about this whole thing of public finance. So I'm of the opinion, like we are trying to integrate other religious aspects, then how about not integrating this PFM in the curriculum of it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. A round of applause to our panel. Thank you very much. You may resume your seats. So we are closing now, and the organizations that are planning for this, please come to the front. The partners that planned for this, you know yourselves. At least one representative each. We need to close this. Now, this is just a small group of people who helped us to put this together. We just wanted to appreciate the entire team. And three things that you want to do. If you like to be a partner in this movement moving forward, get in touch with any of these organizations. That will be an easier way. But I'm giving them 1 minute each just to tell us what they see us doing moving forward. So mention your name, your organization, and what you see us moving forward in less than a minute, kindly.
Yeah, thank you. So I work for Institute of Economic Affairs, and what I say moving forward is increase in transparency in these numbers, tracking these numbers, and also advocacy, telling people what the numbers are saying so that they engage in a more informed perspective.
Good afternoon again. My name is Nelly Chepkemoi. I lead policy and advocacy at We Care Youth. We are a youth-led organization. So by the virtue of being youth, you can already tell we build movements. So we go through especially higher institutions from TVET, colleges, and universities through building and establishing integrity clubs that then help us with access to information, help you be able to track, and also in the parts of public participation. And because of the aspect of children, then I'm looking to see how we can then work with children in establishing such clubs. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Atulo Joseph. I work for Mtoto News International. We've already heard from the children, we've already heard from Ms. Jennifer, and for me just to urge us to, and also the government, and even other CSOs, let us listen to these young people. They have a lot to tell us, and the more we continue listening to them, the more we'll put the matters that they're talking about into consideration. For the government, let's stop ignoring the children. They tell us a lot of things throughout the budget process. Let us listen to them, and let us put what they tell us into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Hamjambo. Thank you so much. This has been a very interesting session. I hope you've enjoyed. Because if you enjoyed, then it means we did a good job in terms of just putting together this panel. My name is Wahisi. I work with ISPAC. ISPAC is the Institute of Certified Public Accountants of Kenya. I'll just reiterate one thing. Let's read the Control of Budget reports. Let's read the Auditor General reports, because the work begins. Let's now start understanding how our money is being utilized, get value for money for the projects, and engage more in this particular matter. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Shisanya Johnston, my name, from the East African Center for Human Rights, or ICHRIGHTS. I head the education program. For me, moving forward, one of the suggestion was to form a strong movement, and that is what we are driving for. We need a strong movement, and you know, Kenya, we believe in the masses, yeah? When we have the mass has the power. So please, we know among ourselves, let us reach to us. We form this movement so that even where you are, you know there is a force behind you. You will not be walking alone. And we are happy to do that, to work together. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Annette Nerima. I work with the Kenya Human Rights Commission. And when I say human rights, so you know that's what I do. And importantly, we cannot enjoy human rights if we do not engage in these conversations of the budget and also on finance bill and governance in general, because that's what governance is all about. So mine is to say, moving forward, information is everywhere. Tukitafuta information tutapata, si ni ukweli? And for those ones that are enlightened, so for those ones that have the capacity to analyze these budgets, let's join hands together. Let's simplify these budgets and the finance bills in the most palatable manner, so that kila mtu aweze kuelewa and they can be able to effectively engage. I would say this is our time as Kenyans. Wamesema sovereign power belongs to the people. So this is our time. Let's engage with the government. Thank you.
Thanks to everyone for the opportunity. I think I can ride on to what she's just said that I wanted to mention is how can we make it a burden that we make budgets familiar for everyone around us. It's said a lot that CSOs, we come with all these good clothes and we speak all this big English, but are we really communicating to the actual people in the room? So that's a burden for us CSOs, how we can make sure we're actually speaking one-on-one with the people on the ground. Yep. Sorry, my name is Neema, Budgeti Hub. Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Tom Ogada is my name from the Institute for Social Accountability, that is TISA. Going forward, this is the biggest budget that we are seeing, 4.8. It might go to over 5 trillion. For us, going forward, let us track this budget, how it is going to be spent. Let us make the government uncomfortable together, ask the difficult questions when they are increasing domestic and foreign travels, when they are adding new furnitures, when they are buying new cars. We ask them, is that the priority? And we invite all of you to join Okoa Uchumi campaign.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is James Kenyo from Transparency International Kenya. Tom has just spoken my mind, but what I'll just emphasize on, tracking the entire budget as a whole is very hard
But if we do sector-specific tracking, one person to track education, another one to track on health, another one on road, infrastructure and all that, we are going to conquer this together. We are going to do this kind of advocacy and have yield results in the long run. So let us not tire. Yeah, that's just that from me.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Bituto Mbasa from Human Dignity and Wellness Center. And all I can say is, let's hold each other accountable for everything that we do. Thank you.
Yes, it's afternoon. Good afternoon to us. My name is Mary Katuto. I work for World Vision Kenya. And today I'm so happy to be part of these discussions. World Vision is a child-focused organization, and we have presence in like 34 counties across our country. And one of the things that we've really been doing with our communities where we serve is we've been so deliberate to strengthen local level social accountability mechanisms. And most of the time, they really participate in the budget making process by coming up with memorandas. And one of the challenges that I really want to embrace on all of us is to be deliberate in getting the facts, because without the facts, then it becomes very hard even to make sense to our duty bearers. And they will also be challenged when we present this data in a way that is able to identify with what we do. Like,
Thank you.
For us, it is children, and we are really enabling that even children get that space.
Thank you very much,
thank
Mary.
you. I'm glad to be part of this.
A round of
you.
applause for this team again. You can take your seats. So let me welcome, Nema said that John is our boss. Even me in this church, I have a boss. Now at All Saints Cathedral, we have a committee for advocacy. So I lead that committee, but that committee is under the leadership of Reverend Josephine. So let me welcome her to close for us this meeting. And then Kennedy will tell us, there's some snacks, I think. Kennedy will tell us where we go from here. So karibu, Reverend Josephine, thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's appreciate it, Don. And everyone who has participated today, we will begin with God. Let's put our hands together to thank God for this day. Thank you very much. And to all our partners, let's appreciate them. Thank you so much, all the partners who worked together to make this a success. And to the participants, let's appreciate ourselves. Thank you very, very much. And to the media team, they are behind there, they're doing a very good job. Thank you so much, media. And there are other people who are working behind there that at the registration desk. Let's appreciate them. Thank you very much. And of course, the security that is out there. Let's appreciate the security for the good job they have done. As we were planning for this, we didn't plan for that commercial break, which we had. You know, we had a clean program of what was going to follow what and everything, and we were looking forward to that. But then there was a sense of humor, and without knowing, we had a commercial break. And I want to thank God for you, because you didn't run away. You came back, and we continued with the discussions. So mine is to, again, thank you on behalf of our provost. He's been here. You have heard him speak. And as a church, we want to take our prophetic position to stand in the gap, and not only to preach to take people to heaven, but also to prepare them to enjoy a little heaven down here. Praise God. And that's why we would want to to partner with you to continue with this dialogue and discussions on what is affecting us as citizens in this country. So we will call you again and again when need arises, so that together we can continue to dialogue and discuss and come up with ideas of how we can make our country better. Otherwise, this dialogue has come to an end. Whatever has a beginning has an end. And so this has come to an end. We will send you the report using the emails which you gave us. So please know that that will happen. We'll send you the reports. For now, let me ask us to stand as I invite Ken. Ken, if you could come. We are about to pray. But before that, one of the young people from our church who has been working behind the scenes is Ken. Ken will tell us what next before I do the prayer.
Thank you, Rev. Good morning, good afternoon once again. So mine is a very quick announcement. So as we are leaving here, we have prepared snacks for you guys. So everyone is going to get a snack. So there will be 2 serving points. There's one on this door, and there's one at the other door. So as you're picking, just pick, serve, and you can come sit here. Is that okay? Yeah, so my name is Kennedy. I am a member of this church. I'm a member of the advocacy team. I think the youngest member of the advocacy team. I'm a lawyer and also a pilot. Thank you so much. May God bless you.
Amen. There is one person who has helped to do communications, and she has done a lot of planning. She left here late last night to make sure that everything is ready for today. And her name is Rose. Let's appreciate Rose. She's seated somewhere behind there. Yeah, she's there. Thank you so much, Rose, for the good work you have done. Let's pray. Loving God, we honor you this afternoon for this which started as an idea, and then we started planning, and Lord, you have made it a reality. And we also want to thank you because even when we had that interruption, Lord, you were there and you made it possible for us to continue. And we want to give you thanks because we have achieved the goal which we had for this day. And so as we bring this to a close, we commit our country, Kenya, to you. We commit these issues that we have raised here today to you. Would you cause the government to listen? Would you cause the concerned people to listen? Would you, loving Father, guide them even as they sit in boardrooms to discuss and plan for this country? Would you, loving Father, take over? We pray for your divine intervention. We pray for change in this nation, in every sector, and in every county, to the glory of your holy name. We thank you so much for us, the church, and even the civil society, and every partner who partnered with us. Lord, we thank you so much for what they are doing out there. And we pray that you continue to use them to enlighten, to empower, and to speak, to raise their voice on behalf of the voiceless. As we bring this to a close, we pray that you dismiss us with your blessings. We pray for a fruitful day. We pray for you to go with each and every one of us, preserve us, protect us, provide for us, bless us. And we also want to thank you for the tea and snacks that have been prepared for us. As we enjoy them, bless us together. For it is in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. The national anthem. and enjoy the rest of the afternoon.
You are